A very good morning to everyone. This is Nagarjuna from Hana Academy. So we'll start the session another 2 to 3 minutes. Few more participants are joining the session. I'm actually helping them to start because the link is not getting refreshed. Just give me another 2 minutes. I'm going to start the session. Thank you. You just refresh that link. You just need to again reopen the link. Once you reopen, you can launch the page. Yeah, okay. Did it open? Okay, thank you. So good morning once again. So first, I'll recap for 5 to 10 minutes. Then we'll start today's session. This week, we started with a new topic, which is an analytic view. Analytic views are the multi-dimensional views. A multi-dimension, multiple dimensions. A dimension is the perspective at which you would like to visualize data. In what dimension you want to, what is the angle in which you would like to analyze data? We can analyze data on multiple dimensions like customer, material, company code, time. These are the few of the dimensions we have created. Dimensions in HANA could be two things. A dimension data model. One is an attribute view. The second one is a calculation view. But we haven't seen still about calculation view, but we can create dimension models using two information views. One is an attribute view and the second one is a calculation view. When we do data modeling for dimensions, we primarily deal with master data. So an analytic view is a multi-dimensional view. A dimension is the angle in which you would like to analyze data. These dimensions can be created in attributes and calculation views. Attribute views are also known as reusable dimensions. Means you can use this attribute view in multiple analytic views. Means we can reuse the same attribute view in multiple analytic views. For example, I'm using customer to analyze my actual gross revenues. The same customer, I can also analyze my planned gross revenues. I have my actual gross revenues as well as I have planned gross revenues. So it means that I'm using the same customer information to do two different analysis. One is actual, the other one is planned. So I can reuse the dimension. When we create an analytic view, the center is the fact table surrounded by dimensions. Representation of a star schema. Center fact table surrounded by dimension tables is nothing but representation of a star schema. A schema is a collection of tables represented in a form of star is known as star schema. Analytic views based on star schema. These star schemas, which are known as analytic views, execute on OLAP engine. OLAP engine is optimized for massively parallel processing of data. And the second point, mass aggregation of data. So for this, we have taken one scenario called Coppa. Now why only Coppa? The volume of data that is generated in Coppa is very high. So due to the volume of data that Coppa generates, in Coppa, whenever we generate an operating concern that is defined by the FI consultant, there are four important tables that system generates, which is CE1, CE2, CE3, and CE4. CE1 stores actual, CE2 store plan, CE3 store aggregated data, and CE4 store master data. So when we're replicating tables from ECC to HANA via data provisioning method like BODS or SLT, when we're replicating from source to target, where source is ECC, so ECC is the source and target is HANA. When replicating the set of tables from source to target, what tables we require? We don't require summary table like CE3 because the data is pre-aggregated. It's summarized. HANA can do on-the-fly summarization. HANA can do on the fly. When you ask a question, at that point of time it summarizes. So there is no need to pre-calculate and keep in a separate table to improve the performance. Because the engine itself is very powerful, which can do pre-calculation, which can do on-the-fly aggregation. So once we replicate these tables like CE1 and CE2, CE1 stores actual data and CE2 store plan data in Coppa. Now how did these tables generate? Based on profitability analysis. Application in profitability analysis application when defining the enterprise structure. So now what I'm going to show now. So from scratch we will see how these tables are generated, how these tables are replicated to HANA, and based on these tables how we are creating data models using analytic views. And finally, the options which are inside the analytic views, like what are calculated columns, what are restricted columns, what are input parameters, variables, and so on, the options in the analytic view. So first I'm going to start with the things that I'm doing now is actually not done by me in the real world. This is done by the FICO consultant. But I can still continue to do this just for good to know for us. Just to know, because when you're working on a real project, it is necessary that we need to understand the entire business flow. Not only for knowledge, but also it helps to do end-to-end testing of the solution. We can do end-to-end testing. For example, if a user complain, okay, this report is generating some wrong values, for example. Now we need to find out what exactly is the problem, whether it is in target, whether it is in the process of data transfer, whether it is in the source system, whether it is in the table, whether it is the program error. We need to do end-to-end troubleshooting. Because at least we need to pinpoint, even we are not technically capable of doing, probably we're not technically capable of doing everything because we have different teams associated in projects, but at least we need to pinpoint and say, okay, probably this could be the error, so could you please check from your side and let us know. So when you're doing RCA, root cause analysis, we need to pinpoint, okay, please check at this point and please let us know, so that they can check and get back to us whether there is a real issue or not. So in this way, we need to do coordination. So in order to do this coordination, we need to at least understand the integration points for different applications. Not only for this project, but not only for Coppa, for any scenario. So most of the time, the HANA consultant on a project have interactions with various teams. The most important, as you know, as everyone know, communication to various teams are also at the same time technically capable of building the solution. Okay, let's move on to this. Now, first we go to the T code, SPRO. Let me go on to the T code. Let me move on to the T code, SPRO. Hello? Is everyone able to hear me? I think the one minute, please. I'll just probably. Is it okay now? Is this okay? Is the quality of okay? So we'll continue. Or is it still breaking? You want me to change to a different connection or continue with using the same connection? If anyone could let me know. Because I have two connections. If this is not okay, I can switch to another connection. Okay, so let's continue. First, I'm going to log into the system. So we logged into the remote desktop. So we've come to the remote desktop connection. So once we're inside the remote desktop connection, once we're inside the remote desktop connection, we all know how to log into the remote desktop. So once we're inside the remote desktop, let us go to the. So one more thing I would like to inform here is, the systems are down now. The systems are down now. They'll be up today evening or tomorrow morning. The reason is I'm actually updating to the new service pack, new revision. So there are new revisions in HANA. I'm just trying to update to the new one, which is SP11, which is the latest one, and the new revision also is available. So just give me another day. So we'll be up with the new software so that we all can work on the latest one with the new revision, which is 111 revision. So previously we had 110 revision. Now SAP released day before yesterday new revision called 111. I just installed that so that we can see more new features that are released in that new revision. Okay, so first I will log into the ECC system. I log on to the ECC. Provide the username and password. Sorry. Today I'm just using my own system. So let's go to SPRO. So SPRO T code is used by the functional people, the functional consultants. So when I enter the SPRO T code, click enter. Click on SAP reference IMG. Click on SAP reference IMG. In here, we can see controlling. If you expand controlling, here we can see profitability analysis. Expand profitability analysis. So usually we don't do this. Whatever I'm trying to show now, we are actually not doing this in the real world. This is done by the FI consultant. The FI consultant does this. So in the profitability analysis, expand structures. In the structures, if you expand, define operating concern. Once you expand the define operating concern, so here we have maintain characteristics and maintain value fields. Here the characteristics, we say characteristics. Character is nothing but an attribute in Hana. They're nothing but attributes. Value fields are known as measures. Attributes are nothing but which basically deal with master data, and measures which deal with transaction data. So values are nothing but amount and quantity related data, but characters are master data. So here we can maintain characteristics and value fields. Now first of all, why should I maintain? Now if you see, here we have maintain an operating concern. When I execute this maintain an operating concern, so what is an operating concern? Enterprise structure. So we click on this input help. And here you can see sample operating concerns. You can see the sample operating concerns. Like IDA is one sample operating concern. I double click on this, click enter. I'll click enter. Select next, hit on the enter button. And then here you can see data structure. Structure of this operating concern, click display. So this is the sample one which is provided by SAP. This is for demo purpose. For demo purpose, SAP has provided this. I'm just trying to view already that is created by SAP. So, so this is the operating concern. So what is the name of the operating concern? C1 IDA. So what does C1 IDA store? Actual data. So what is this here? Chars, and here we see value fields. In the chars we find all the master data. You see all this sales deal, product hierarchy. You can see country, ship to party, customer, sales office, sales group. All these are master data. And here you find value fields. The value fields you find ordered quantity, invoice quantity, revenue, all quantity related and amount related data. Now here I have something called extras. In extras I have fixed fields. When I click on display fixed fields, so here you see fixed fields for data structure. So what does this mean is, SAP has already given a standard enterprise structure called CE1 IDEA. There are fixed fields. So these fixed fields are the template. Whenever you're creating an operating concern, these fixed fields will be available for any enterprise structure. So these are the fixed fields that we have. One is product, company code, sales order, customer, profit center, sales organization, distribution channels, and so on, plant. So now these are fixed fields that are provided by SAP. For example, in these fixed fields, do we find a fixed field called continent? I want to analyze data based on continent. I don't have. So what I can do now, I can go back. I can click on maintain characteristics, means I can create my own custom characteristics. For example, I create my own custom characteristics. JetJetCon. I'm creating on my own. Let's start with WW. WWCon. Click create. User defined. I am defining this. I'm defining my own characteristic. Click continue. Short text. Give the heading. Data type. Char. Length 10. Click save. So who is doing this? HANA consultant will not do this. This is done by the FI consultant. Click automatic. Once you click automatic, the new char is generated. So this is the new characteristic that system that I generated and system created. So this is a new characteristic I created because I don't have them in the standard columns that are provided by SAP. So I'll go back now. I'll also generate another column on the measure, which is value field. I'll click on this. So I'll create a new measure, VVGST, Global Service Tax. Just creating a new column, click create, click continue. Excuse me. Give the description, Global Service Tax. Aggregation type is sum. Value field type, whether it is amount or quantity. So Global Service Tax is amount. So I'll click save, click back. So I created one more column for measure. So one is the continent, the other one is the GST. So I'll click back. So based on my requirement, based on my business, whatever is not provided by SAP, I've done the gap analysis. So based on my gap analysis, I created one char and the other one is value field. Excuse me. Once I created this, now I can click on maintain operating concern. Click on maintain operating concern. Here I can create my own operating concern. For example, I create my own operating concern called Tata. Click enter. Tata does not exist. Should Tata be created? Click yes. I want to create Tata. Click continue. So I'm going to give the description, or we can get as a template from another operating concern. I'm not going to get as a template, but I'm just creating my own operating concern. So data structure. So just click on this accounting and cost-based profitability analysis. Click create. Save first. Click create. Now once we click create, please see what is the table that is generated? C1 Tata. So if the operating concern is Tata, the table generated is C1. IDA is standard 1. So it generated C1 Tata. So in C1 Tata table, I actually require 2 additional columns which I just created, which is VV0, VVGST and WWCon, which these are user defined columns that I have created. Along with this, there are other set of standard columns which are provided by SAP. Excuse me. There are a set of standard columns which are provided by SAP. And these are my user defined and these are SAP predefined. So both this together will be in C1 Tata. This is the new table which is created by SAP system. So I'll go back now. C1 Tata is the data structure. So these are my display fixed fields. All these are standard fields that are given by SAP. Apart from that, I can select my own columns. So here, transfer from. So I can transfer my columns which are here. Any columns you can take. Whatever the columns that you require, not only from mine, you can just select any of these columns. Metal group, country, zone. You can take segment. So based on the business requirement, click on the value field. In the value fields you can select other variants, bonus, gross sales, catering, crew salaries, sales quantity. The blue ones are already selected. Blue ones means these columns are already selected. So whenever you select a column, for example, VVK25, group production, so already this is selected. So now, apart from the standard provided by SAP, I selected few more additional columns based on my requirement. And finally, I click on save. Click save. It is saving the structure. So what I'm trying to show here is when we generate an operating concern, now these 4 tables are created. I'll just show you. CE1 Tata will be created. CE2 Tata will be created. So whatever I'm showing now is just good to know for us because we will not have an opportunity to work on this. C4 Tata. So once this is generated by FI, so who is doing this? FI consultant is doing this configuration. I'll click back, hit back, I'll click yes, and I'll click activate. I'm sorry, 1 minute. I'll activate the structures. Oops, I lost this. Okay. I'll randomly select few columns here. I'll randomly select few columns and click activate. I'm activating the structure now. So once the structure is activated, all that we need to understand from here is to understand the tables. Okay. So I'll go to S11. There's a T code called S11. We'll go to S11. Now let us see whether these tables are generated. CE1 Tata is one table. C1 Tata. Second table, C2 Tata. C2 Tata. Next table, C3 Tata. C3 Tata, and the other table I require is CE4 Tata. So all these four tables I have. Now why these four tables are created? Because ECC is on the MS SQL system. And this is the old system. I mean, old system means we have more simplified system of this ECC, which is known as simple. The simple version of this system is S4 Hana. Simple fourth generation HANA system, in which you will have FI known as S4 Finance, S4 Logistics. So that's a completely different topic, but what I'm trying to say here is the structures that we have on this system is optimized for MS SQL. It means that S4 HANA system, which is a new generation system, can only work on HANA, but this system can work on any compactable database that is by SAP. Any database can support which are supported by SAP. But S4 HANA system, which is a simplified version of the system, can only work on SAP HANA. So that's why we have additional tables like, still we have additional tables like CE3, some of the aggregated tables which are not really necessary. We still have these tables. Okay, now we know these four tables are created and generated when we generate an operating concern, and this is done by FICO consultant. Now what is the next step? Now as a HANA consultant, what I require now? As a HANA consultant, now we need to know these tables are generated. FICO consultant has written an email that, okay, this is an operating concern, go ahead and use this operating concern for creating your data models. I got that information. Once I get, next I need to choose what data provisioning. Whether I want to choose SLT or whether I want to use BODS. Now what is the user requirement? What is the business requirement? So business is asking whether he want to see real time or batch. What is the difference between real time and batch? Now if I done a posting on C1 table, now for example, this C1 table in HANA, the C1 table in HANA should be updated immediately. Go for SLT. If the business requirement is okay, I don't require now itself, tomorrow morning also is okay for me, or day after tomorrow okay, or this week, at the end of the week I'm going to generate these reports. There's no problem because I don't require instantly, later I require, not immediately. For any business scenario, if the user or the business say, I don't require operational reporting, there can be delay in viewing the reports. For example, you can use to go for BODS, batch, scheduled. Means daily, I give a time. Okay, daily at 8 a.m., get all data from these tables to HANA. SLT, whenever there are any changes, insert, update or delete, immediately get the data to HANA. So now you have to choose, go for this or this. For example, for now, let us say I choose SLT. Means I need to get these tables from ECC connect to SLT and SLT connect to HANA. So in SLT, I execute these tables. Anyways, we are not going to see this now. I'm going to show you later point. So we have a T code for SLT. Like we have something called LTRC. LTRC is a T code, SAP LT replication server cockpit. So when we go to this T code and we can do data provisioning. When I click on the data provisioning, I can basically say, okay, start load. What tables? You have to specify table name in the database. You have to specify, okay, CU1 Tata. I want to get this table to HANA. So click execute. We will see more detailedness into how to create configuration, how to replicate these tables, more detailedness in later. But for now, I'll just move on to my analytic view. The aim is to create an analytic view, but to create an analytic view, the configuration should be created, table should be created. This table should be replicated via SLT to HANA, and final stage is creating the analytic view. So now SLT is configured and ready to use in LTRC. So I execute these tables in SLT, and finally the tables in HANA. So now I know the tables are there in HANA, so I'll click on the HANA Studio. I'll click on the HANA Studio. I'll log into the system. I'll log into the system. I'll log into the system. So I click on the catalog, click find tables, and then enter the table C1. So instead of C1 Tata, I'll take C1 IDA. So C1 IDA is a table similar to C1 Tata. So this is one of the table in Schema, C1 IDA table. Now the table C1 IDA is in the source, is also in the target. So this is the structure of the table. And so how many records we have in this table? Let us see. We have 73,677 records. So I'll right click again, find table, give the table name. So instead of C1 Tata, C1 IDA. So show definition. I don't want to see definition, I want to see content. Click OK. Now this is the data that we have in HANA. So whatever the table we have in the source system, C1 ID or C1 Tata, any table, now we got into HANA. Now let us see our data model now. Now we know the tables are in HANA. Now we know tables in HANA. So this is the HANA system. This is the HANA system I have. Now let us design the data model. So in HANA system, To design this data model, what tables are required here? Now we already know master tables like KNA1, T005T, T005U, customer MARA, MAKT, T001, TCURT, TVKO, TVKOT, and tables from underscore sys underscore BIC, which are time tables, which is M underscore time underscore dimension. Now here we have different subject areas like customer, material. We have company code, we have time. So these are different attribute views. Now each one of them is one subject area. So this is a dimension. Each one of them is one dimension. We already created them in the past. So you have 4 dimensions. Now this is, you know, AT underscore customer. We know this is AT underscore material, AT underscore company code, and AT underscore time. Now, star schema. Star schema. So this is a star schema. So in a star, we have multiple dimensions. So this is one dimension, this is another dimension, this is another dimension, this is another dimension. What is star schema? A schema is collection of tables. So what are these tables? All these tables are master data tables. We already have these tables in an attribute views. Now we know for each attribute there is a key attribute. For example, in AT customer, the key attribute is KUNNR. In AT material, MATNR, material number, customer number. In here the key attribute is BUKRS. In here the key attribute is date underscore SAP. Now these are nothing but the key attributes. Now these key attributes like customer ID, material ID, company code ID, time ID. Now in the center of this star, in the center of the star we have a table now, which is, it could be C1 Tata or C1 IDA, both are same. But because C1 IDA is already provided by SAP, I'm choosing to go for C1 IDA. Now what is C1 IDA? C1 IDA is nothing but, it is a transaction table which is basically having amount and quantity related data. Amount and quantity related data. This table gives me information. This table C1 IDA gives me information about the actual profitability analysis data. Now we know the history of this table. Who created this? How this table is created? How we replicated to Hana? We know the history of this table. Now finally this table is in Hana. I'm using this table when I'm creating an analytic view. Now first of all we need to design this analytic view. In order to design this analytic view, first what we need to create? We need to create attribute views. Already attribute views are created. Now how these attribute views are linked to this table? That is the next question here. How I can link this customer to C1, how I can link the company code to C1, how I can link the time. So because these are the key attributes, but I need to find out foreign keys. Only when I can find out the relationship between these tables and the foreign key, I can join these tables. So in order to join, I need to know my primary key and foreign key. Okay. Now, in AT customer, the primary key is KUNNR. What is the foreign key in C1 IDA table? KNDNR. The key attribute is MATNR. What is the foreign key? ARTNR. The key attribute is BUKRS. What is the foreign key? BUKRS. The key attribute is date underscore SAP. What is the foreign key? You can take any date from SAP, date on which record was created, date on which, any date based on the business requirement. So the first question here is, find out the key attributes and the foreign keys and create a relationship between both these tables. Okay, so let me go back to ECC, S11, enter, provide the table name. What is the table name? CE1, IDEA, click display. Now we all know in the third session, session 1, I taken demo. Session 2, we see technical login details about system. In the third session, we discuss about a requirement. In the requirement, I clearly stated in the functional spec, when I created a functional spec in the third session, sorry, it is fourth session, not the third session. It is fourth session from the starting of the class. In there, I clearly given, so these are the dimensions I require. And I also mentioned for transaction data, I require my gross revenue, my sales deductions. What are my sales deductions? And what's my net revenue? So these three measures I require: my gross revenue, my sales deductions, and my net revenue based on these different dimensions like customer, material, company code. Now, from the CE1 table, there are two important things I need to know. One is my foreign keys. Now I know my foreign keys. What are my foreign keys? KNDNR for customer, ARTNR for material, BUKRS for company code, date, and the measures. Now what are my measures? Nothing but transaction data. My measures are VV010, comma, VV070, comma, and net revenue is a formula. So these are my technical names for gross, for sales deductions, and net revenue. The formula for net revenue is, what is the formula for net revenue is gross revenue minus sales deduction. So net revenue I'm trying to derive where gross revenue minus sales deduction. Now this is directly not available in the database, but this is I'm creating on the fly. I'm creating a formula to derive net revenue VV010 minus VV070, gross revenue minus sales deductions. Okay, first I'm going to show the foreign keys. How we can interlink these attribute views with the transaction data. So I'll go to C1 table, C1 IDA table. I'll go to maintain operating concern. Sorry, dictionary display table. So let us click find on the table and search for KNDNR. Enter. This is the column for customer. Next, let us enter ARTNR. Let us enter ARTNR. ARTNR. Enter. This is for material. Please see product number. Product number is nothing but the material. Let us click find again. Let us find for BUKRS. BUKRS. Enter. So this is BUKRS, company code. Let us click find again. Find for date, any date related column. So here you have posting date. So this is a date related column, invoice date, goods issue date, and then you have other dates like date on which record was created, HZ dat. So based on the business requirement, you can take any of these dates. So now how do I know I would want this foreign key customer to link with KUNNR from KNA1 table? You see here data element here. When I double click on this data element, in the domain you see KUNNR, nothing but the customer number. So the domain KUNNR, which have the same data type and length, the domain is used. I'm reusing the domain in KNDNR. It means that it has the same technical properties. Domain is same. So that's why I would like to join. Now based on the business, KNA1 KUNNR, I'm joining to KUNNR KNDNR. Both are same, customer number and customer number. This is a primary key and this is a foreign key. So I join both of them. Coming to the material, I'll go back to the table. Here you have ARTNR. ARTNR is the product number. Double click on data element, So what do we see here? MATNR. Again, both are same, except the technical names are different. When you see from the business point of view, MATNR and ARTNR hold the same information. MATNR is a key attribute in the material master table, whereas ARTNR is the foreign key. Only when we create materials in the material T code, these materials are updated to Mara. Now from Mara, from the material master table, they travel to Coppa tables. In the Coppa table, it's directly not MATNR, but instead it is ARTNR. But the data inside these columns are same. They have the same business semantics. So the point here I'm trying to make here is we need to find relationships, okay, from now any requirement for that, not only for Coppa, take SD, sales HR, take CRM, as supply chain management. For anything, these relations are very, very important. We need to understand them. If you're not basically getting them, then we can discuss with functional ABAP. We can get from Google by doing more research. So we need to link KUNNR, KNDNR, MATNR to ARTNR, BUKRS to BUKRS. We need to join them like this. And date on which record was created to date underscore SAP. So in the analytic view, the first step is to choose attribute views. Step number 1, choose the required attribute views. Step number 2, define the data foundation. Now, let us try to zoom more into details. Now, when we're creating an analytic view, please see, I'll just show you roughly, but we'll discuss in detail later. When we're creating an analytic view, right click, package, new, click on the analytic view. When we're creating this analytic view, click finish. Just let us see the sample one. You see in here, you can see two things. One is the data foundation, and the other one is the star join data foundation. What is the difference between a data foundation and a star join data foundation? A data foundation is a place where we can join transaction tables together. A star join data foundation is a place, you see it's something like a star. The center is the fact surrounded by the small tables. Just like something I drew over here. The center is this, and this is, so the one that we actually created over here, now this is nothing but the star join. So in a star join, when we are creating a star join data foundation, it means that we are doing step 2. We are doing step 2 but not step 1. Step 2 is to join attribute views with the foreign keys of the transaction table. But in the step 1, what I've done, I'm selecting this table. So where do I select this table? Please see. When I go to data foundation, I can click on this plus icon, add objects, and give it C1 IDEA and select from any of this schema. Now when I select at the data foundation, now we see here, you can see the descriptions, and so what I want to choose over here, I want to choose customer, I want to choose material, I want to choose, let me click on find, I want to choose BUKRS, company code, I want to choose VV010, revenue, I want to choose VV070, sales deductions. So in here the data foundation is for transaction data, transaction tables. Whenever I choose, when I choose these columns, when I choose these columns from the data foundation of the CE1 table, the chosen columns will be in the output. So here these are the columns in the output. The selected columns of the data foundation, when you click on the star join, now this is nothing but the fact table. So what is the fact table here? The fact table is nothing but the chosen columns of the data foundation becomes a fact table, which is nothing but the central table. This is nothing but the central table. So in the center table, I choose KNDNR, ARTNR, BUKRS, date, and the other columns as well, like VV010 and VV070. Let me choose date also. Okay. I want to explain two scenarios over here. The first scenario. A data foundation is a place to define a relationship between tables. When we are defining relationship between tables, until now telling a scenario where you can choose transaction tables. I want to explain one example over here. I would like to explain one example. Let's say this is my requirement. My requirement is this. So there are two tables, CE1, CE2. I have two tables, CE1 and CE2. From these two tables, there is a measure, VV010. What is this measure for revenue? What's my revenue, which is gross revenue? So here I have one more measure, which is VV010001. This is also gross revenue. But from the business point of view, this is the actual gross revenues, and this is my planned gross revenue. From business point of view, these two tables are actually different. This stores actual and this stores plan. We know already this. But here my requirement here is when the business is asking a report, this is what is asking. I want to see my company code. What is my gross revenue? VV010 and VV010001. I'm actually giving some sample data. Company code is 1000, which is Germany. The gross revenue for Germany, the actual gross revenue is 50,000 USD. But when I plan for 70,000 USD. So this is what he would like to see. So he would like to see company code master data, the actual gross revenues and the planned gross revenues. Now tell me, can I design this scenario in an analytic view? Because if you see, this is a different table, CE1, and this is a different table, CE2. Both are different tables. Both have different kinds of data, but both share the same master data. Because attribute views are reusable dimensions, I can reuse the attribute view in these analytic views. The question here is, can I write a select statement saying that I want gross revenue from CE1 and require gross revenue from CE2, where I can see both gross revenue side by side in the same report. We cannot do this in analytic view. The reason being, analytic views, the limitation of an analytic view is you can select measures only from a single fact table. You cannot request measures from multiple fact tables, like getting a measure from CE1 and getting a measure from CE2 is not possible. When creating, so we cannot have something like this, where I can insert CE1 and where I can insert CE2, and then I can also get the CE2 table. I can get these two tables, CE1 and CE2, where one of the measure is VV010 and the other measure is, when I click on find, VV010001. This is also gross revenue, but please see, this gross revenue is from CE2 and this gross revenue is from CE1. I click on the data foundation. Here I cannot have measure from VV010 and VV01000. If I activate this view, it will throw me an error saying that base measures, the base measures cannot be requested from two different tables. That is the error it throws to me. So simply to say, analytic view has a limitation to have measures from two different fact tables. So that is one limitation I want to explain. But It doesn't mean we cannot design this. We can design, but we can do it in a calculation view. We can do this in a calculation. So in a calculation view, we can have data models designed on multiple transaction tables. And you can request measures from multiple transaction tables in a calculation view, but not in the analytic view. We cannot design an analytic view. Same scenario we can design in the calculation view. So calculation views can have measures from more than one fact table. But analytic view, it's a limitation where we cannot have from more than one fact table. I also want to explain one more scenario here. The point one, we cannot have measures from two different fact tables. The second point, now when we say a star schema, a star schema is nothing but collection of tables. So you have tables, tables, and tables in the database. I can actually do two things. One is I can define relationship between these tables physically. The same relationships I can define in a view. Now, what is physical star schema? And what is virtual star schema? What is the difference between a physical star schema and a virtual star schema? Okay. A star schema is nothing but the center fact table surrounded by dimension tables. Now, this kind of star schemas are used in BW, business warehouse. And these kind of star schemas are used in HANA. So I'm highlighting one more point over here. So in the data foundation, we can create a star schema over here. We can create a star schema in the star join. So when we are creating a star schema in the data foundation, please see there is an option here. Click File, click Import, expand SAP HANA content. Here you have something called SAP NetWeaver BW models. Please see, what does it say? Select this mode to import objects available in an SAP NetWeaver BW system that you want to transform into SAP HANA information models. So you can transform BW models to HANA models automatically. So when you actually transform these BW models to HANA models, nothing but to analytic views, you can see physical star schema. But when we are building the analytic view in HANA, means we're not importing. Importing is, you're importing from the ABAP to HANA. So BW is in the ABAP application layer. We're importing to HANA, means we're importing from ABAP to HANA system. But in here, we're creating in HANA system. We're not importing from anywhere, but we're actually creating relationships in HANA. This is known as native HANA modeling. Native HANA modeling. You can come across this term most frequently whenever you see in the job descriptions. When you're actually seeing some job that you can see, should be familiar with native HANA modeling. So BW on HANA creates a physical star schema When you're doing native HANA modeling, we create a virtual star schema. So just I want to conclude one point over here. Whenever we create a star schema in the star join data foundation, this is a virtual star schema. Whenever we create a star schema in the data foundation, this is a physical star schema. So now my scenario here is, in order to achieve this reporting, now what is the basis for creating a calculation view? The data source is an analytic view. Analytic views are basically the data source, the sources of data to create a calculation view. So after we create these analytic views, one is analytic view 1 for actual and analytic view 2 for plan, and then I'm going to use both of them as a source of data for creating a calculation view. Please see, I've used an attribute view to give master data to an analytic view where it is a dimension. I'm using an analytic view inside a calculation view where I can combine two analytic views to produce this report or this kind of data to the output. So that is for today's session. So in today's session, the focus was to explain how these tables are created in system in SPRO by FICO consultant. FICO consultant goes to SPRO, standard enterprise structure, columns are available, fixed columns. Also we can define user-defined columns in maintain characteristics and maintain measures. We can create an operating concern. Once the operating concern is created, these tables are created. Once these tables are created, the next thing, we need to use real-time or batch, SLT or BODS. Either we can choose both of them, for real-time SLT, for batch BODS. These tables are replicated to HANA. Once these tables are replicated to HANA, then we need to find out the relationship between these tables. How attribute views can be linked to the transaction table by using key attributes and foreign keys. Once we identify relationships, technically if you see, when creating an analytic view, there is a data foundation, there is a star join data foundation. In the data foundation, we select the transaction table, select the required columns and measures. In the star join, we define relationship between the key attribute and the foreign keys and create a virtual star schema. The limitation of an analytic view, we cannot have measures taken from multiple fact tables. In such a case, we need to create two analytic views and access these two analytic views in a calculation view. When we create a star join data foundation, we're creating a native HANA data models. When you're creating a star schema in the data foundation, we're importing data models from BW to HANA. These are known as physical star schema and this is known as a virtual star schema. But whether it is a physical or a virtual, both of them execute on OLAP engine. So OLAP engine is actually processing this data, whether it is a physical or a virtual. So if I click on this free space, here you can see the column engine is the OLAP engine. So OLAP engine is actually processing whether it is a physical or a virtual, it actually processes on this engine. So that is for today's session. In tomorrow's session, we will see how we can actually start building this data model in the analytic view. And also I will also show you how we can create if data models on BW on HANA. So tomorrow we'll see what native HANA data models, also BW powered by HANA data models, and we'll try to see the difference between both of them. So let us read questions. So let me read the question. So the first question here. So what is Coppa operating concern? Can we repeat it again? I missed last class first 20 minutes. Coppa is nothing but profitability analysis. Based on Coppa, you can analyze, you can do root cause analysis on what are my margins, what is my gross revenue on very detailed level, like customers, on products, on distribution channels, on sales organizations. We can simply know whether we are in profit or loss based on each product or by each customer. So for this, we are creating reports in Coppa. Coppa is nothing but controlling profitability analysis. How can we get values from two or more? How can we get values of any two or more in text join? How can we get values of any two or more in text join? Means I need to see English as well as D. Okay. As I discussed on the other day, so if you want to achieve that scenario, we need to create a text join for one, which is based on user session, or we can create two design time filters. A design time filter to restrict English, a design time filter to restrict D. Next question. You said multiple fact tables can be done in calculation view, but not in analytic view. Then why we need to use an analytic view? Instead, we can do all in a calculation view. Analytic views are the foundation for data when creating a calculation view. How attribute views provide master data to an analytic view? Analytic views act as a foundation to create calculation views. It means that analytic views are necessary to create calculation views. But we also have a different scenario. If different scenario is also there, which is known as star join in a calculation view, where we can create without an analytic view. That is also possible. That we will see that in detail, more in detail when we discuss about calculation view. But the scenario that we are doing now is analytic views act as a data foundation when creating a calculation view. Can we use views in SAP ECC for a star schema? ECC doesn't support star schema. The reason is it is based on entity relationship models. So ECC is an OLTP system. So star schemas are supported in only OLAP system. Online analytical processing, like example like BW. Hana, both support OLAP, but ECC doesn't support. So we cannot create star schemas, but still we can create two-dimensional schemas. Two-dimensional schema. Star schema is a 3D schema, multi-dimensional schema. Which version of HANA are we using? We are using SP11, which is the latest version. Can you please define a fact table again? Okay. A fact table is a table which contains facts. For example, what is my ordered quantity? So, how many pizzas did I order? For example, let's say I'm doing an order. I'm trying to order 10 pizzas. 10 pizzas I'm ordering. So 10 is nothing but the quantity. The quantities of pizzas I'm ordering. How many pizzas are delivered? For example, there are only 8 pizzas available. So 8 pizzas are delivered. So other 2 pizzas are not delivered. So the invoicing is done for 8 pizzas. So 8 pizzas, I pay the bill, 800 INR. So ordered pizzas are 10, delivered pizzas are 8, and invoiced pizzas are 8 for 800 rupees. So all these details like the amount and quantity related 10 pizzas and 800 pizza, 800 amount. So these are nothing but facts or the measures. The measures are stored in a fact table. Fact is nothing but which happened. So I ordered, got delivered, and then I paid 800 rupees amount. So the fact table contains facts which are amount and quantity related data which actually happened. So fact table contains measures. So next question. What will be the licensing cost for S4 HANA? It depends on customer to customer. For this, the account manager from the company, from the partner company, has to negotiate with SAP. We can negotiate. This depends on whether it is you're going for cloud, whether you're going for on-premise, whether you have your own hardware, and software should be supplied by SAP. How many users do you require? What is the edition that you require, whether it is an enterprise cloud, what is the scope of the solution, whether you want to limit to a particular scope or you want to extend the scope. So all these details, we need to have a scoping document. So once we have the scope document, based on the scope, we need to discuss the license from SAP. First, we need to have a scope fixed. Okay, this is my scope. So based on that scope, we actually move forward. So usually this is taken care by account management from the team, and account management should discuss with the SAP. So I'll tell you one more case also. Even the licensing cost, if you're using another database, you purchased a new database only 2 years back, but you have a valid license for next 3 years. But still, you're not interested to move forward with the existing database. So what you can do is, like a simple example would be, whenever you want to buy a new furniture, there are sometimes they ask us, okay, return back your old furniture, we give discount, and then we give new furniture. So because furniture is something which basically, it occupies more space, we may not have a lot of space in the house. So we want to give back the furniture and get the new furniture. So in the same case, we can actually give back the old database license. Okay, these 3 years you have, what SAP can do is, so 3 years they calculate, okay, you spend this much money. They give rebate for these next 3 years. They give discount based on 3 years you still have, okay, use HANA, I'm going to reduce the price for next 3 years. You can go ahead with HANA. So like this, more details, we need to get into more details to various scenarios. So is there any prerequisite before the migration from ECC to HANA? The prerequisite is, whenever you want to go for HANA, first of all, we need to migrate the database layer. So next is the migration for ECC. So this is done using DMO, database migration option. So there is a standard procedure for DMO, which is a database migration option. So using DMO, it tells us what is your existing version of the ECC, what is your kernel, whether you have to do a kernel upgrade, whether you are using 4.7, whether you're using ECC 5.0 or 6.0. So first of all, we need to migrate the database. Once we migrate the database, then we can migrate the application layer. So this is an automated process. So all this automation of the migration is done in the database migration option, which is a standard tool provided by SAP, and this is done by the database. This is done by the HANA admins. Is it a general question VBAK, VBAP, VBLN is a primary key in VBAP, and how VBLN is having a duplicated records? It's the general question VBAK, VBAP, VBLN is primary key, VBAP, VBLN is a primary key in VBAP, and how VBLN having duplicate records. Okay. VBAK is a header table, whereas VBAP is an item table. So for one header, you may have multiple, items. So one order, in an order you have items 10, pencil, 20, pen, 30, books. So what happens is order keeps repeating, but items change. So basically it's a composite key. VBLN, and the item is, I think it is POSNR. Sales order item is POSNR, but the sales order ID is VBLN. So there is a composite key in VBAP, but in the VBAK there is only a key, which is a header table. That's why it seems like duplicates, but these are not duplicates, but these are the composite keys. Next question. Can we repeat a star schema once again, please? A star schema is a schema. So what is a schema? A schema is nothing but collection of tables. It's nothing but tables. Now these tables are categorized into two. One is a master data table. A master data table is a table that contains data that is not so frequently changing. Transaction tables are the tables which contain facts, or the measures, or the amount and quantity related data. Now when we say a star schema is a collection of tables. In a star, the center table is always a table which contains the measure. The measures are actually in the fact table, and this fact table is surrounded by the master data tables, where we can analyze these measures on different perspectives. Like you can analyze it by customer. I can ask a question, who are my top customers? It goes to KUNNR, and then it travels to C1, and it basically based on gross revenue, it will sort and give the result. I can also ask another question based on material, based on time. So a star schema is a schema where the tables are organized in such a way they are not two-dimensional, they are multi-dimensional. Multiple dimensions, like a cube. You see, when we see a cube, so if this is a cube is like a star schema. So in cube you have multiple dimensions. It's a three-dimensional. So basically this is one dimension, other dimension, other dimension. You can see in a multi-dimensional view. So this is the cube where you can see. So this is one dimension of a cube. This is another dimension of a cube. This is another dimension of a cube. This is another dimension of a cube. In the center you have the fact table. You can try to analyze data on different dimensions. Now, why we organize tables in star schema is because it is read optimized for reading of data. Star schemas are not optimized for writing, but they're optimized for reads of data. Any perspective, any angle you can read, or you can ask any question which is a multi-dimensional question. So can we get the latest certification dumps? The dumps are in Dropbox, but outside the latest certification dumps, they're all fake. I'm telling you very openly. The latest certification dumps are fake dumps. I know by these fake dumps, just thinking that these are original dumps, few of the candidates who even did not join the course, I talked to them. So please do not go for 15 edition dumps which are fake in the market. Still, the original dumps are not released in market. Original dumps are there for 13 edition and 14 edition, but not for 15. So that is why I did not keep those dumps. I know these are fake, that's why I did not update those dumps, because anyway that won't be useful. But 13 edition and 14 edition are actually the original dumps. 100% I'm sure these questions will come. But 15 edition dumps are, these are not reliable dumps. So you can take any questions for that matter. So that's why once I get these latest dumps for 15, but we need to confirm, someone else should confirm. Without confirming, we cannot, we cannot, people may think it is 15 edition and then they may read and go and then they may, But the dumps from 13 and 14, you'll get 60% of the questions from these dumps, 13 and 14 edition. 40% will not be available. But still I will try to get those dumps, but only after confirming I can update you whether these are actually the original dumps or the fake dumps. Thank you. Thank you everyone to attend today's session. We'll see you tomorrow same time. Good evening and good night to everyone. Thank you.